This is a client that I've been seeing. His name is Austin, and this is our fourth session together. I just wanted to preference that before we start. Hey, Austin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. It's been a long week. Got a lot going on, but that's why I'm here, I guess. I know you already know things that are going on with me and DJ. I broke his fishing rod a couple weeks ago, and he still hasn't talked to me since then. Work, I just started a new job a while ago. We talked about that before, and it's just stressing me out.
Austin, I'm sorry. Let me just interrupt you briefly because I wanted to just take a step back. I know that we are familiar with each other and that we've discussed a lot of situations that have occurred in your life, but I just want you to, if you could, explain in a few brief sentences what you were feeling most this week since the last time I saw you last Thursday.
Okay, well, I already had some stuff going on, and then another bombshell got dropped on me. I found out yesterday that my dad just got arrested, so it's kind of a surprise to me, and I've just kind of been dealing with that and just trying to figure out what's going on and what I'm supposed to do moving forward.
Yeah.
So
I'm
that's probably
sorry
the
to hear
biggest
that.
thing. Yeah, it's weird, but it's part of life, so I'm just going to,
Unexpected, huh?
out
Yeah.
of left field.
Okay. So before we start with our session, I just want to set an agenda. My goal today, and obviously asking what you hope to get from this session as well. But what that's going to look like is we're going to kind of recap updates from last week. So what you were expressing to me in the beginning of our session, we're just going to go in more depth with that.
Okay.
And then I want to ask about your homework.
Okay.
And how, and if you saw any results from last week's homework assignment. And then we're going to kind of discuss the prevalent, situation that just occurred. It seems like that's going to be our focus of this session.
Okay.
And then we'll try, I want to do an activity with you, and then we'll go ahead and in the session and schedule something for next week if that's what you choose to do, okay?
That's fine.
Does that sound good?
Let's do it.
Okay, great. Okay, so update me once more about everything that kind of transpired. Not necessarily about your dad's situation yet, but you were talking about your friends and work. I know last week we discussed work and how that was pretty stressful for you. Can you kind of follow up on that for me?
Yeah, so that was actually the one that you gave me some homework to do, and basically what was going on is I just started this job about 2 weeks ago, and it's something different than I've done before, so being that it was like that, I've had to learn a lot of new softwares, programs, things like that, and so it was just kind of overwhelming. I was getting real kind of anxiety about the job because I don't like to do bad, and then you kind of told me, hey, I should go find someone that's been good to me so far and kind of welcome me to the company. So I did that, and I found this guy named Danny, and he's a good guy. And basically, he just kind of opened up and told me that if I had any questions or needed clarification, he could be my guy. And so I've kind of just gone to him for those little silly questions, just so I didn't feel like I was being a burden on anyone. And because of that, I've made a lot of progress just in about a week of learning how to use the system that we run, and feeling a little bit more confident in the job and not so anxious. So
well, that is so good.
It's been good, yeah.
That's good progress. I mean, also, not to mention that you've made a good connection.
Oh, yeah.
I know it's more comforting when you're in an unknown environment with a lot of responsibility, and if you've made a connection with somebody that's willing to guide you. I think you described it like he took you under your wing a little bit.
Literally, yeah. I told him today when I grow up I want to be just like him. He said, you don't want to be like me. I said, I think I do.
Oh, my goodness. So, Danny, that was his name, right?
Danny the Manny.
Look at that. Well, good. Well, Danny sounds like it's going to be a good contact to keep while you're still in the process of learning this new job.
I think so.
So there's some progress there, even though is it still stressful?
Yeah, it's stressful. So that's just one piece of the puzzle of my job.
Okay.
So I feel better with that, and then now it's kind of moving on to the next things that they're kind of taking it slow with me so I can learn one thing at a time and get comfortable, and then once I know how to do everything, then they'll put everything together and I'm on my own. So That'll be the real scary part.
Yeah, that'll be when you're left on your own.
Yeah.
No, okay. And then you mentioned friends briefly. So what's going on with your friend's situation?
Yeah, so my really good friend, DJ, we actually went fishing together last weekend, and he's really, really possessive about his fishing rods. And we were deep sea, and one thing led to the next. He got stuck on a rock, and I ended up losing his fishing rods.
Oh
So
boy.
basically, he just stopped talking to me the rest of the day, and I haven't heard from him since last Saturday, which is now about 5 or 6 days.
Oh man.
And it's weird because we used to always talk, and I don't know, I feel like I'm losing my good friend over something silly. I don't know how to make it up to him and make it right. I just want to try and console our friendship before
Yeah.
it's too late.
Well, have you expressed those thoughts to him and those feelings, or have you
Not
been
yet.
waiting for him to reach out?
Not yet. I just felt like when he was in a not so angry state, he might pop up to me. But I guess if it goes on like a little bit longer, I'll say, hey, like I'm sorry for what I did, and it was an accident. And if there's any way that I can make it up to you, I'd rather do that than lose you as a friend.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm just kind of nervous for what he's feeling on the inside. I want to just give him his space because he's a big.
Well,
fisher.
just as you are assuming, like that he's so frustrated because he hasn't reached out, and because of his attitudes and his anger, like as the pole broke and such. Like, what if he's assuming that towards you because you haven't reached out? Does that make sense? Like, if you
Yeah.
put yourself in his perspective, and he is expecting you to reach out again, and he's like, "Wow, I must have not meant anything to him." That's just an example. Now, I don't know this, but yeah. So I say that to say, if you put yourself in his perspective, then maybe this coming week, along with some other work that we've been doing together, it might just be good to reach out to him and just express your true feelings about wanting to reconcile that friendship, right?
Okay. But what if he reaches out first? Should I just kind of see what he says and then, like, if he's kind of read off of what he's telling me, or I don't know.
If he reaches out first, I would take it for what it is. Like, yes, read off of him, but also make sure your point gets across. Because if
Okay.
he's wanting you to say sorry and you haven't yet, and he's angry, but once you say sorry, that could maybe manage figure each
Okay.
other out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I'll just wait and see what happens, and then I'll fill you in next week.
Okay, yeah, that would be good. And then, lastly, you discussed the situation with your father, and that recently occurred. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll just give you the background story. So about 5 years ago, my dad just walked out the door one day. We were all sitting on the couch. My mom's car just broke down, and we were trying to figure out what we needed to do so that she could have a car to go to work and take us places, things like that. And then he was on his phone, so she just grabbed his phone and told him, like, we need to focus because this is important right now. And then he grabbed his phone back and just walked out the door, didn't even grab any clothes or anything. And then that was the last time we saw him. And then, so kind of going through there, my mom was dealing with, like, the court system and trying to get everything situated so she'd be taken care of because she was always a stay-at-home mom. And then for the last 5 years, she hasn't gotten anything as far as like money to help out with the house or anything from my dad. And then she just recently found out that he had gotten arrested. And so it's just been a lot to take in because like you don't talk to someone for a long time and then you just find out they're in jail and you don't know why or what they did or what's going on. And so it's just been like kind of bringing up old scars that were kind of pushed away for a while, and now it's like a fresh wound again. So it just sucks.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you're having to go through that, and that it sounds like it's been something you've had to deal with for many years now. How did that make you feel? Like, especially if it just happened this past weekend. Like I'm noticing, your arms are kind of crossed, and your morale is kind of down, which is expected with this situation. But I just wanted to ask you more specifically, how does that make you feel? Like, what are some of those feelings that you felt?
Well, when I first found out was actually yesterday, so that's like perfect timing that we had this meeting today. But
Wow.
When we first found out, I was just shocked because I was like, my dad would never go to jail. Even though I hadn't talked to him in a long time, he's still my dad at the end of the day. So like I just always put him on a pedestal. And then like when I found out, then I was just like shocked, sad, angry for him even getting arrested. And then now I'm just kind of confused and trying to figure out what happens next and does it affect me or does it affect my mom or my brother, things like that. So just like a weird place of not knowing, and I'm just trying to. I don't know. It's just still so new. I don't really know what I'm going to do next, or I guess I just wait to see what happens.
Yeah, no, I'm hearing you express those things, and those are valid, and I just wanted you to know that. But something that I think will help today is actually what I discussed in the beginning of this agenda, and it's about mood identifying and realizing that moods and feelings or moods and situations are two separate things, though at times in the midst of chaos, it can be confusing to navigate like feelings and thoughts, like in the difference between them. So I'm just going to read an example for you, and then we're going to apply it to this current like situation this that you're experiencing.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So when learning to understand different moods and feelings and how to identify those experiences, moods can be like deflected as a name, if that makes sense. Let me clarify that with you. You may be tired, or let me give you an example. You may be tired all the time and not realize that you're depressed, or you may be feeling nervous, and that might indicate that you're out of control, and not recognizing that it's actually anxiousness that you're feeling, whereas you think you're out of control. So does that clarify that to you a little bit more? So along with the situation, so what I would like to do, I guess, if that's okay, I'm going to show you here on this paper.
Okay.
We're going to discuss different moods, which can be anxious, sad, depressed, hurt, angry, guilty, panic, afraid, nervous. Like those are more moods. Those are not necessarily thoughts, right? So I would love to talk about the situation and talk about moods together. So if we can do this together, so separate moods from situations, separating moods from situations. So a situation might be your dad left you 5 years ago. That was the first thing that you indicated to me when you were telling me about that. Now you could talk about thoughts, which would be more than one word. So in a sense of asking for a mood, moods are typically described as one explanation, one-worded explanations, not images or memories, right? Because that's what can get confusing with them. So if the situation is your dad left 5 years ago, what's the mood? Like that is your situation, and what would be those moods that you felt?
So now that I'm looking at the list that you kind of put together, I'd say when it first happened, I was probably afraid, and then I kind of panicked because I was still in school and young and didn't know.
So I'm going to pause you right there. You said panicked, so that is the mood, but then the thought behind it is the reasoning. So you just were elaborating on your mood. But I'm just getting that picture for you to indicate a mood and a thought. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So no, you can continue, but yes. So you said that was probably panic and
afraid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it was unfamiliar, right? It was unheard of. You never expected it.
Yeah.
Okay. So if that was one situation, what would be a second situation for you? Could you think of one?
Yeah, I mean, also just kind of going off my dad, like in the last 5 years or so, he'll always make promises that he's going to do this or do that or meet me for a dinner or lunch or we're going to go do something. And like 99% of the time it just doesn't happen, or I just don't get a call or a text that we're still doing this. And so like that's something that I've kind of dealt with ongoing.
Yeah, that's a situation.
And every time it's like it's not always the same reaction, because after 5 years eventually you're just like whatever, but usually I just feel sad because it's like the one person you want to see is just not there. So
that's your main feeling. But see, exactly. So that was you identifying a situation and knowing that there's moods that follow that situation. You see? And then maybe one more let's do together, because then this is going to actually lead into your homework. I'm going to ask you to do this coming week.
Okay.
Excuse me. So maybe the last one was most current. Let's say the situation about your dad being arrested.
Okay.
Like, your first and foremost, like, what did that bring up?
As far as a mood, I mean, I was sad, but then I was just like, it's almost embarrassing sometimes because you never think that your dad's gonna be the guy, and then like arrest records are public, so anybody could look up my dad and be like, oh, your dad went to jail, and so like I just try to brush it under the rug and hope that no one sees it, but at the end of the day, it's not a reflection on me, I guess. It's more on him, but still, it's got my last name attached to it, so it's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, no, surely. I mean, I'm glad that you mentioned that because you're right, and that's something that you have to hang on to because you cannot control your father. Yes, you have the same last name, so yes, the mood of being embarrassed is fitting, but ultimately, he is his own man, and you are your own man, and you cannot control his actions regardless of what they are, just as he can't control yours. I mean, in the sense of fatherhood, maybe, but you are a grown man, and
That's
you
true.
work, and you have friends, and you have your own life.
That's true.
But no, yeah, exactly. Those are the difference in distinguishing the two. Now, my homework for you this weekend, since we now have identified situations and moods, instead of having that like confusion and thoughts and moods mixed combined, I want you to rate your moods this coming week because moods are indicators of our overall feelings, right? They kind of work together. They do work together. So that's why it's best to identify them so then we can come up with an action plan to improve our moods more often, right? So identifying moods is kind of like a scale. So let's say today's Thursday. We have 7 days before you go in. Not every day do I want you to identify your mood, but maybe. Well, actually, let me ask you what's an achievable goal? Like how many times this week do you think you could be like you wouldn't forget to identify your mood?
Probably like 3 days.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, that is fair. No, that's valid. So what I would love for you to do is just like say it's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, or something before you come in, or whatever that looks like. Just identify the day, and then identify the mood, and then as you can see here, I have an example. It goes 0 to 100. 0 being like something that you have, like the mood that you're not experiencing at all, and then 100 being like the most you've ever felt that.
Okay.
Whether that's depressed or anxious or sad. Excuse me, there's something in my throat. I was looking for water. So yes, so you said 3 days is achievable for you. So pick those 3 days, and then we'll come in and we'll kind of discuss further about what might be creating, what moods are kind of playing into the situation and how maybe we can find a positive outlook to change our moods. Because one thing that identifying and rating moods does, like I kind of said earlier, is it just allows you in almost like a bigger picture. You can kind of see what moods you're feeling most. And also this can be for good as well because you want to highlight those moments because that's breakthrough, right? But it will, you can identify them clear. And then, so say, for example, it's depression or something, and that's really what you're feeling a lot recently. We can gauge that bi-weekly, and we can see the times that you are depressed and the times that you aren't, and we can try to incorporate maybe more structure or, better tools to cope with different things to make that depression less, or that feeling of being depressed less. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think that sounds good. I think we had, on my aspect, think we had a great session today. I feel like we kind of went over a lot, but we really focused on your father. Mm-hmm. How did you feel that the session went?
I think it was good. I mean, I liked following up on the stuff from last week just because, like, it's nice to know that, or I guess to recognize the progress you made in other situations. And then, obviously, the thing that we talked about with my dad was just dropped on me recently, so it's fresh. I'm glad that we could talk about it while it was still new before I was able to try and push it away or anything like that. So I think overall it was like pretty successful, and I think I still need to keep coming. I'm a long way away from being where I need to be, but
no, I enjoy that, and I don't mean to laugh in the sense of like, but haha, yay, but it's like I like that you're enjoying the sessions because this is something I enjoy doing. It's work, but I love seeing progress, and I've seen that in your session with one, you having the courage to meet Danny. That was great. So meeting Danny and then having the thoughts to interact with your friend DJ, and then also to just really evaluate the situation with your father and to kind of work through that issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's kind of an overall view of like what we did today, and then I just want to reiterate, you don't have any questions about the homework assignment
No, I
with
think
identifying
3
moods?
days, and then just kind of we'll follow up with the scale of how my moods were during the week and see if we can figure out what's causing it and maybe come up with a plan to make it better.
Yeah, no, good. Well, thank you for your time. And is there any feedback that you could give to this session? I did want to ask you one question, but I
Okay.
wanted to see if you had any feedback first. Like, is there anything I could have done better as a therapist, or did you like the interaction? Maybe you didn't like the interaction. What's your preference, or how did you feel today went?
No, I think overall it was good. I mean, like always, you make me comfortable, so it's like just having a conversation. It's not like I'm getting quizzed or like under the microscope, so it's like very open, and I feel comfortable talking to you about things that I might not talk to other people about. So, yeah, I mean, you're good at what you do, and I can start to see the progress that I'm making in myself, and I'm sure you can see it too. And guess we'll just keep going at it, and hopefully you'll get to see it to the finish line. So
Great.
that's my feedback. I can leave you a comment card if anybody needs.
No, I think that will be okay. And then my last question would be, what is something that you want to cover next session together?
Well, I know the thing with DJ is kind of like my big lingering issue, and I'd like to see what happens between us this week, and depending on how that goes, like that's probably going to be the main thing I want to talk about, hopefully, and not another bombshell get dropped on me, so I can really make progress with that, because I mean, the dad thing's been going on for a while, but the DJ thing is new, and he's my really good friend, so I'd rather focus on something that's here than something that's not here anymore. So that's kind of my goal for next week.
Goal for next week? Okay, we can definitely discuss both of those things. And just following up, and then hopefully you'll be able to successfully complete your homework assignment from the session.
I think I can do it.
All right, well, Austin, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Have a nice day.
All right. Bye.